to scary stories.
Before we begin tonight's story, I want to ask you something. Have you ever kept a secret so deep, so heavy, that even the silence around you began to feel suspicious? That's the kind of fear we explore here. The kind that doesn't knock, it just slowly moves in. Guys, there's only one ad at the 10th minute mark, and the rest? I've kept them all at the end of the story, so nothing breaks the immersion. But guys, more than anything, I want this space to feel like a late-night campfire for the soul. So if something comes to your mind, a strange thought, a dream, a memory, a fear, or even just a hello, drop it in the comments below. That one comment could be the spark that helps our story find someone who needs it tonight. Let's build something haunting and beautiful together. They say trauma fades with time. Whoever said that never bled on a pentagram while chanting backwards Latin at 2 a.m. It's been 2 years since that night. The night I should have died. The night Rhea Vale and her satanic followers tried to carve my soul out like a jack-o'-lantern. I escaped. The cops never found bodies, just blood. Burn marks, broken candles, charred bones they wrote off as animal remains. No charges were filed. No one believed me. I was the crazy kid who made up a satanic cult because I couldn't cope with high school pressure. The irony? High school's the real hell. Every day is the same. Locker slams, sideways stares, whispers. That's him. Blood Boy. His mom probably drinks goat milk. People are crueler when they think you're a liar. Amber Cross, former friend, current tormentor, makes sure of it. This morning, she handed me a tampon and said, "Just in case your demons start leaking again." The entire hallway cracked up. I forced a smile, said nothing. Because if you say too much, they might start listening. And if they start listening, he might hear you too. My name is Jace Rivers. I'm 17. I've survived a cult, 3 failed therapists, and an entire school year of being treated like a disease. But something changed this week. It started Monday. The locker number 324. Mine. When I opened it, something slid out. A paper, folded, yellow, soaked slightly at the corner. I thought it was a prank, until I unfolded it. Just one word scrawled in something dark and flaky, soon. No name, no context. But the handwriting? It was Rhea's. I didn't tell anyone. Why would I? Mr. Grant, the guidance counselor, already thinks I faked the cult stuff for attention. I showed him the paper. He sniffed it. Said it was probably barbecue. Sauce. Then he gave me a stress ball shaped like a smiley face and said, "Try to focus on positive vibrations, okay, Jace?" I wanted to shove it down his throat. Instead, I nodded. Tuesday was worse. I was alone in the bathroom, brushing water from my hair, when I saw it. Not in the mirror, behind it. A shadow, standing still. No eyes, but staring. By the time I turned around, it was gone. No one believed me, of course. Maybe stop doing edibles before school, Amber laughed. Even the janitor looked at me like I was contagious. But I know what I saw. Then came Wednesday. The whispers started. Not from people, from things. Books opening on their own in the library. The overhead lights in room 14 blinking out the words JACE and the clock. Always stuck at 3:33 p.m. in homeroom. It wasn't coincidence. It was a countdown. That night, I dreamed of her. Rhea. Standing in my childhood bedroom, wearing her black cult robe, half burned and dripping wet. She didn't speak, just smiled. Behind her, the walls were bleeding. From picture frames, from vents, from the corners, all red, all mine. I woke up with scratches on my chest. 4 of them, perfectly straight, like fingers. Thursday, I met Sky Morgan, transfer student, black hair with silver strands, combat boots, Zero patience for small talk. She sat next to me in biology. Not by accident. I heard you saw demons, she said casually while dissecting a frog. I choked. Who told you that? Everyone. She shrugged. I just believe it. No one had ever said that to me before. Not once. She leaned in. They came back, didn't they? I froze. She smirked. I've seen them too. We talked after class behind the school. She pulled a notebook from her bag. Not school-issued. A black leather-bound book filled with drawings, sigils, cult markings, blood moons, goats with human eyes, and then Rhea Vale's symbol, the crescent cross, the one. She carved into my palm 2 years ago. How do you know that? I whispered. Sky looked me dead in the eye. Because my brother wore it on his skin when he died. Friday. The whispers became screams. Only I could hear them. In the hallways. In my dreams. In the bathroom mirror, Rhea's face appeared. Behind the fog of the steam, smiling, whispering, blood remembers. And for the first time since that night, I believed she never left. It all climaxed during 7th period. I sat in my desk in room 213, and every student turned to me at once. All of them. Even the teacher. No one blinked, and in unison they said, "We never died, Jace. You just stopped looking." Then they blinked, and everything was normal again. When the bell rang, I ran, straight to the locker. I slammed it open. This time, there was no note. There was a mirror. Small, square, cracked, and in it, I saw myself. But not really. He was wearing my face. But his mouth moved before mine, and he whispered, "Welcome back, brother. They say trauma bonds people, but trauma like this, it fuses you like blood and ritual ash, like two pieces of cursed glass melted into one." After that day in the classroom, after the mirrored version of me whispered, "Welcome back," I knew I wasn't alone, and I wasn't crazy. Sky proved. That night, we sat in the cemetery on the edge of town, the one no one talks about, the one where no graves have names, just symbols. She brought her brother's journal, bound in thick canvas, smelled like rust and mildew. Inside, diagrams of circles, Latin incantations, charcoal sketches of open-mouthed demons, and one page marked with a blood stain, a ritual. To bind the vessel to the flesh. The offering must die. The blood must burn. And the soul must not resist. My stomach turned. This is what they used on me. Sky nodded. This was the night you died, Jace. You weren't just a target. You were the key. I didn't want to hear it. But deep down, I'd always known. There were gaps in my memory. Not just fog, but blackouts. Time lost like torn-out calendar pages. I didn't sleep anymore. When I closed my eyes, I heard her voice. Say the words. Jace, let the blood flow. I woke with scratches again. One night I found my hand wrapped around a blade I didn't remember picking up. And on the mirror, a message in red, "You brought them back. We skipped school. We needed answers." Sky led me to a bookstore outside of town, a forgotten place wedged between an antique shop and a boarded-up church. The owner was blind, but he recognized me. "You're the one who came in bleeding," he whispered, fingers tracing the air in front of my face. "I've never been here," I said. He only smiled. "No, not you. The other you." He handed Sky a book, bound in black leather, titleless. But inside, our town's real history. Back in the 1700s, the town was home to the Aurum Solis, A secret order of blood cultists who believed the soul could be split across lifetimes. They used mirrors to trap pieces of their souls, waiting for bodies to reincarnate into. Rhea Vale's name appeared in a footnote. High Priestess. First Vassal. Soulbinder. Sky tapped the page. Your name's not in the book, Jace. I exhaled. Good. She turned the page. There it was. Rivers, Vessel 13, marked, survived. I stared at it until the letters swam. Marked. Survived. I wasn't the beginning of the story. Was the next chapter. That night, Sky stayed over. We didn't sleep. We made salt circles, hung black cloth over the mirrors, read Latin until our mouths went dry, and just after 3:33 a.m., the lights blew out. The walls pulsed. The salt on the floor curled inward, and my reflection in the mirror spoke, but not with my voice. With hers. Rhea. You were mine once, she hissed. You still are. I smashed the mirror. Blood poured down. My face from the glass shards. Sky pulled me back, but the cut on my forehead? It glowed, bright red, in the shape of her sigil. That morning, I didn't go to school, but I watched. From the trees across the parking lot, I saw Amber cross. She stood in the middle of the courtyard, surrounded by her circle of friends, laughing. But I noticed something. Her reflection in a car window? It wasn't her. It was Rhea. For just a moment, watching me. Smiling. I told Sky. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said something that chilled my spine. The cult didn't die with Rhea. They just went dormant, until you came back. Later, in the school's abandoned archives, we found something worse. Old yearbooks, one page folded, the 1999 senior class. And there, standing beside the principal, was Brother Kane. He looked exactly the same. Not older, not aged, just waiting. And guess what? He was now our new history teacher. That night, I confronted Amber. I cornered her behind the gym after everyone left. You've seen her, haven't you? I asked. She smirked. You mean Rhea? I froze. Amber leaned in. She's coming back. Jace, you kept a piece of her. She just wants it back. Why me? I asked. She reached out and touched my chest. Because you bled with us. And we bled with you. I ran. Back to my house. Into the basement. To the last mirror I hadn't smashed. Looked into it, and the reflection that looked back, not Jace, not Rhea, but something else. Something made of all of them. A dozen faces swirling beneath the skin. One mouth. One voice. You let us in, Jace. You let us out, I screamed. Smashed it. Again. But this time, no glass fell. The mirror bled, and so did I. There's something worse than losing time. It's knowing you're the one giving it away. The third night after the mirror bled, I blacked out. 1 minute I was in my bed, staring at the ceiling fan spin like a broken halo. The next, I was standing in the woods, barefoot, with blood caked under my fingernails and Sky's name carved into my arm. I didn't remember doing it, but I didn't doubt I had. Sky didn't flinch when I showed her. She just lit a cigarette with shaking fingers and said, "It's starting. The awakening." What does that mean? I asked. She looked up at me. For the first time, truly afraid. It means the others are coming back. We weren't the only ones marked that night. The entire senior class was acting wrong. Kids who'd never spoken Latin now muttered it under their breath. One girl coughed up a tooth that wasn't hers. A guy on the football team shattered his own leg in gym class and laughed through it, with someone else's voice. And worst of all, Amber Cross started seeing the future. She knew what teachers would say before they spoke. She knew who would die next, and she kept smiling about it. The worst came during history class. Brother Kane, our newly returned teacher, projected an image on the screen, an old woodcut of the Aurum Solus. Hooded figures, ritual knives, children bleeding in front of mirrors. "Can anyone tell me the purpose of ritual bloodletting?" he asked. No one spoke, until Amber raised her hand and said, "To anchor the soul across timelines." Kane smiled. "Perfect. Just like the old texts." And then he looked directly at me. "Jace Rivers, you've bled, haven't you?" My mouth dried. He didn't wait for an answer. Once is never enough. That night, I set up cameras in my room, 4 of them, each facing a mirror. I told Sky to check in if I didn't answer my phone by sunrise. I fell asleep with a kitchen knife under my pillow and salt on the windowsill. But I still dreamed. Only this time, it wasn't a dream. I stood in the gymnasium, but the walls dripped with black tar. The bleachers were twisted flesh. The scoreboard read, "Bled, 13. Remain." Onria stood at the center, barefoot, eyes gone, her mouth stitched shut, but still. I heard her. "They're here. They never left. And you're the only one missing, Jace." Then she vanished, and Amber stepped out of the shadows, dressed in red ceremonial robes. "Choose," she whispered, "her life or your soul." Behind her, Sky screamed, tied to a mirror, blood spilling from her eyes. And I was holding the knife. I woke up gasping. The cameras were all off. Every mirror in the room was shattered and etched in my wall. "She dies, or you bleedy ran to Sky's house." But I was too late. She opened the door covered in blood, not hers. Her dog, throat slashed. On the wall behind her, a message in dried crimson. "He chose you once, he'll choose you again." Sky didn't cry. She handed me her brother's journal. The last page had changed. It was blank before. Now it read, "On the 3rd night, the soul fractures. On the 4th, it decides." That day, time started to break. In class, I blinked. And suddenly I was in 8th grade again, staring at a dead bird I'd buried under the swings. I blinked again, and I was back in the present. I passed mirrors that showed me older, broken, disfigured. And I saw people I knew, walking backwards. Amber passed me in the hallway 3 times in 1 minute, each time holding a different weapon. A bat, a knife, a key. The last time, she stopped and said, "Pick one," then vanished. Sky told me the truth that night. Something she hadn't dared say before. "You didn't just survive the ritual, Jace," she whispered. "You finished it." "What are you talking about?" She held up a photo I'd never seen. Me, kneeling in the ritual circle, covered in blood, smiling. Everyone else dead. "Where did you get this?" "It was in my brother's chest. Locked in. A box, with your name carved into the lid." I backed away. "I don't remember that." "That's the problem. You're not supposed to." I ran. To the woods. To the place where it started. The burned-out cabin. Or what should have been burned out. Now it stood whole. Clean. Lit from the inside. Inside, everything was laid out like the night of the ritual. The pentagram. The candles. The book, and at the center a mirror. Unbroken. But I wasn't in the reflection. Sky was, bound, bleeding, whispering my name. And beside her, Brother Kane. He stepped through the glass like it was water. "You already know what must be done, Jace," I backed away. No, your blood opened the gate. But hers will seal it. I won't kill her. He tilted his head. You already did. Twice. In other versions. He touched the mirror. Wanna see? He showed me. Every time I hesitated. Every time I gave in. Every time I watched her die. And smiled. I collapsed. Screaming. Clawing at my own skin. Trying to tear away whatever Rhea left in me. But I couldn't. Because she wasn't in me. I was in her. The vessel. The key. The last chapter. Back in my room, the final camera came on by itself. I looked at the screen. Skye sat in a chair behind me. Tied, gagged, crying. But when I turned around, she wasn't there. Only her reflection remained. Trapped and whispering through the glass. Don't choose me, Jace. Choose yourself. I always thought the phrase, "my life flashed before my eyes," was just a dramatic way to say I saw it all before I died. But what if your life didn't flash? What if it shattered into hundreds of jagged pieces, and each piece hated you? It began with the mirror. The one in my room, the last one I hadn't covered in salt or cloth. I stared at it too long, and then I blinked and woke up inside it. Not metaphorically, not symbolically. I was literally inside the mirror. Standing in a hallway that looked like my house, except wrong. Every surface reflected, even the ceiling, even my skin. I had no shadow, no breath, no heartbeat, just a reflection. The walls whispered. Jace Rivers, liminal soul, failed vessel, doomed to repeat. I turned corners that led nowhere. Every door opened into another hallway. Every hallway mirrored the last. And the faces. God, the faces. Behind every pane of glass stood a version of me. Some looked like me from the past, others weren't human anymore. One version of me had burned skin, eyes missing. Another smiled too wide, teeth like razors. One was strapped in a straitjacket, slamming its head into the glass until blood ran like ink. And one, just one, stood silently. Perfect, clean, smiling. He was the worst because he looked at me like I was the mistake. I ran. The mirrors followed. Every step echoed forever, like I was running through my own heartbeat. Then I found the room. A wide, cathedral-like chamber. The walls were alive, shifting like liquid mercury. In the center stood a throne made of broken mirror shards. And sitting on it was her Rhea Vale, dressed in white this time, skin flawless, eyes like polished obsidian. You found the heart, she said. Where am I? She smiled. This is where I kept you, while the others burned. The House of Mirrors wasn't just a place, it was my mind, my soul, my guilt. Rhea didn't live here. I did. Every lie, every memory I twisted. Every time I said I was fine, they built this. You were never supposed to leave the ritual, she said, rising from the throne. You were supposed to die. Willingly. Then why let me go? She leaned in close. So I could grow inside. You. The floor opened, and I fell. I landed in the high school gym. Empty, except for rows and rows of desks, each with a version of me sitting at it. Some sobbing, some writing, some staring blankly. At the front, a chalkboard. The test begins now. Fail, and she dies. The chalk began writing itself. Who are you really? I couldn't answer. So the mirrors shattered. The pieces reassembled into a battlefield. Flames. Shadows. Screams. I watched as one version of me slit Skye's throat, sobbing. Another let the cult possess his body for immortality. Another turned the blade on himself, but still lived. And at the center of them all, the real me, or what was left. A boy covered in blood, clutching a drawing of a family he never really had. Then the perfect version of me stepped forward. Flawless. Calm. He said, "You can end this. Give her up." "Join me," I asked. "What happens if I do?" He smiled. "You forget. No pain. No sky. No Rhea. Just peace." I looked down. The knife was already in my hand, and Sky was behind me, real, bleeding, crying, begging. I screamed, turned the blade on him. The perfect me. It pierced his heart. He didn't bleed. He cracked, and the entire mirror world shattered like a dropped chandelier. I woke up. In the burned-out cabin. Sky beside me, unconscious but breathing. My hands were burned, my throat raw, and carved into the dirt in front of me. "You killed the lie, now kill the truth." That night, the moon turned red. The cult returned to the school, fully reborn. Amber led them. Brother Cain watched, and the final ritual altar was being built. In the auditorium, blood was being drawn, names were being whispered, and I was already walking toward them, 'cause I now knew what I had to do. The mirrors lied, but the blood never did. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I couldn't, but because I was afraid of who might wake up in my place. Sky and I barricaded, ourselves inside the cabin. She stitched my palms, burned from the last ritual. I watched her hands shake, not from fear of the cult, from fear of me. "You're not him," she said quietly, eyes not quite meeting mine. I didn't respond. Because I wasn't sure she was right. Outside, the town was unraveling. Dead animals appeared on doorsteps. Blood poured from streetlights. The church bells rang on their own, every 66 minutes, and on every wall someone had scrawled in charcoal, "Tonight." He decides he couldn't deny it anymore. Something was inside me, and every hour it grew louder. It wasn't Rhea, not exactly. It was us, merged, coiled together like smoke and flame. I saw things now. When I touched people, I saw how they'd die. When I looked in mirrors, my reflection moved faster than me. My heartbeat came in 3 pulses, not 1. I was changing. We needed answers. Sky remembered a page in her brother's journal we'd overlooked. We flipped through it again, until we found it. A ritual written in a circle, impossible to read linearly, but in the center. To sever the blood root, the host must make the ultimate betrayal. To kill the bond, kill the one who still sees you. Sky closed the book. Her voice cracked. "It means me." I stood frozen. She didn't run, didn't cry. She just asked, if it meant saving everyone else, would you do it? I wanted to say no, but my silence answered for me. That night the cult revealed themselves. No more hiding in hallways or behind human faces. They wore their robes now. They walked openly, and they came to the school. The auditorium had been transformed into a temple. The bleachers were stacked with candles. A giant circle drawn in blood covered the gym floor. And in the center, Amber, wearing the crown of bones, holding a dagger in each hand. Brother Cain stood before the students. Those still alive, those already possessed. "The blood moon rises," he said. "And the soul must choose." Then he looked at me. "Jace. Rivers, your vessel is open. The Queen awaits." I stepped into the circle. The crowd parted. Whispers buzzed like hornets. "He's ready. He bleeds. He dies. Sky followed me in. Not because she trusted me, but because she had to. Amber held out one dagger. I took it. She held out the other, to Sky. She took it too. This wasn't just a sacrifice, it was a duel. Amber began chanting. The cult joined in. The room vibrated like a living throat. Candles blew sideways, flames turning black. Blood dripped from the ceiling, and the circle began to burn. Sky stared at me, tears in her eyes. "If this is it," she said, "make it mean something." I raised the blade, her hand tightened around hers. And then I dropped. "My weapon!" Amber screamed. Brother Kane stepped forward. "You've doomed us!" Sky stabbed the air. A pulse of blue fire exploded from the circle. The mirrors in the gym shattered outward. Each cult member screamed, grabbing their heads, convulsing. Amber fell to her knees, eyes bleeding. "You coward!" she hissed. "You were supposed to give in!" I turned to her, smiling. I did, and I raised my hand. Blood-red energy flowed from my fingertips. Ria's gift, and I unleashed it. The cult burned. One by one, their bodies blackened, mouths open. In soundless screams, Amber tried to crawl away, but her body exploded into ash. Brother Kane vanished in flame, and the ceiling caved in. When it was over, only two people stood. Me and Sky, covered in soot, shaking, alive, but not okay. Never okay. I collapsed. Eyes wide, my skin steamed. A voice in my mind whispered, "You used me, clever boy, but you're still mine." Sky knelt beside me. "Is it over?" I looked at the ruined temple, the scorched walls, the scattered ash, and I said, "For them, yes. For us." I touched the center of my chest, where her sigil still pulsed. No. The air hasn't moved in hours. Not since the fire. Not since the screams stopped. Not since the blood cooled beneath my feet. Sky and I stood at the edge of what used to be our high school. Now it was nothing but scorched concrete and twisted metal. The auditorium, the place where they died, where I chose not to kill her, still reeked of ash and charred bone. Somehow the fire hadn't spread, like the house had only wanted them, and like it had left something behind, for me. "Do you feel different?" Sky asked, her voice barely above, a whisper. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to lie, but I couldn't, because something inside me still pulsed, still whispered, still waited. That night, I dreamt of the cabin again, but not the one in the woods. This one was made of mirror glass. The moon was blood red above it, hanging like a slit eye. Inside, silence, and Ria, sitting at a table, pouring tea. "I saved you a seat," she said. Her skin was pale, translucent, no longer cruel, just empty. I sat down. "You lost." She nodded. "I always do." "Then why do you keep coming back?" Her smile cracked. "Because one of you always stays." I woke to thunder, but the sky was clear. Sky was gone, and in her place, a note. "You sleepwalked again." You whispered her name. I had to leave. "Please don't come looking for me unless you're really you." And taped to the note, a photo of me and Sky and Ria, all smiling like family. Except we'd never taken that picture. I followed the whispers to the ruins, the basement of the school, where they kept old books, broken furniture, forgotten records. Only now, it was something else. The walls had changed. No longer brick. Now mirrors. Again. The house of mirrors rebuilt. Waiting. I stepped in. Every reflection stared, but none were me. One was a child, crying blood. One was an old man, eyes gouged out. One had Sky's face, but my voice. At the center, on a dais of glass, Rhea, burned, mouthless, alive. She didn't speak, she projected every moment I'd buried. Pushing Rachel, my real sister, down the stairs when I was 12, letting my foster mother bleed out in the kitchen while I called 911 with the line muted. Smiling when they chose me for the ritual. "You weren't chosen," she finally said aloud. "You volunteered." The truth hit like a funeral bell. I hadn't survived the cult. I'd helped them, until the last second, when something human in me resisted. I was the reason it worked, and the reason it failed. I was the fault line. The crack in the circle. "You still have one choice left," Rhea whispered, and a mirror appeared. Inside it, Sky. Bound. Bleeding. Begging. Again. This wasn't a vision. It was now. She was being pulled back in. A fail-safe. The cult's final command. "If the vessel denies the queen," she whispered, "then the bond must break in blood." I fell to my knees. Tears spilled from my eyes. "Please," I said. "Not again." The blade appeared in my hand. Not steel. Mirror. Reflective. And across its surface, every version of me watched. The one who killed her. The one who joined Rhea. The one who burned. The one who walked away. I stood, looked at Rhea, and smiled. "You made one mistake," I said. "You left the door open too long, and I turned the blade into myself. Not to die. To trap her, in the last vessel, my body, my soul, the one thing left untouched by ritual. You can stay," I whispered. "But only with me." Rhea screamed. The glass exploded. The mirrors turned black. And the house collapsed. I woke up in a hospital bed, alone. Alive. They said the fire was ruled arson. No bodies were found. The school was leveled. The town buried everything. But Sky, gone. No one remembered her. No photos, no records. Just the note in my pocket. I walk every day. Talk to shadows. Avoid mirrors. The doctors say I'm healing, but they don't see the way glass watches me. Sometimes, in a puddle or shop window, I see her, Rhea, still inside, still waiting, and I whisper, "You're not the one who stayed. I am." The interview was only 20 minutes long. One guy, pale, sharp nose, barely made eye contact. Didn't even ask for a resume. Just stared at me and said, "You're alone at night. That okay?" I said, "Sure." He nodded, slid me a key card, and told me to show up Monday. No questions, no paperwork, no HR, just silence. I liked that. Ashcroft Museum of Medical Oddities had been closed for decades. The city finally approved its demolition, but paperwork was slow. In the meantime, they hired night guards. Not for theft, nothing here was worth stealing, but for legal reasons. I didn't care why. The fewer people I saw, the better. After everything that happened back in Denver, I'd learned to appreciate being forgotten. I arrived just after 11:30 p.m. It sat at the edge of an industrial block, surrounded by broken street lamps and silence, 3 stories tall, vines growing through the upper windows. The entrance had a metal plate bolted over the original sign, spray-painted, "Do not enter after dark." Probably a joke. Probably the air inside was stale. Like a tomb wrapped in plastic. No heating. No working elevators. Just battery lights on the walls, casting dull orange glows. I found the guard's office near the lobby. A rusted desk, an old analog monitor, and a single logbook. A handwritten note taped to the screen read, "Don't check the basement after. If the elevator dings, ignore it." I smiled at that. Dark humor from the last guy, maybe. Still, something about the handwriting made my stomach turn. It looked like mine. I began the patrol. The museum had a weird layout. Twisting halls, blocked stairwells, random locked doors. Exhibits lined the walls, jars of preserved organs, diagrams of surgeries, photographs of 19th century treatment methods. In the West Wing, I passed a glass case labeled Patient Zero, Origin Unknown. But the case was empty. Odd. I made a note to report it, then moved on. The further in I went, the colder it got. Not like air conditioning cold. Like burial ground cold. Damp. Deep. The children's exhibit was the worst. Painted murals of smiling kids. A carousel horse in the corner. A crib with a porcelain doll. When I passed it, the doll's head turned. I heard the pop of the joint. But when I looked back, it hadn't moved. I told myself it was a trick of the light. I kept walking. I heard the first whisper. Over the intercom. Just one word. Graves. It was my last name. I paused under the speaker. Static followed. Then nothing. No one else was in the building. No one was supposed to be. Back in the office, I tried playing it off. Maybe interference. I flipped open the logbook to make a note and saw the entry already written. Intercom, whispering my name again. My handwriting. The pen still in my hand. I hadn't written it. Had I? The elevator dinged, just once. The logbook flashed in my mind. If the elevator dings, ignore it. I waited. Nothing. I waited longer. The lights dimmed for a moment, then returned. I told myself I was just tired. But I took the stairs to the third floor. Instead, upstairs was worse. Dust covered everything, except for one hallway. Pristine. Like someone had just cleaned it. Each room had a steel placard. Lobotomy, theater, hydrotherapy room, shock chamber. The doors were locked, all except room 14. Inside, the air was thick with rot. The only light came from a single ceiling bulb, flickering. Like a dying star. I stepped inside. A medical table sat in the center. Strapped down was a mannequin, split down the middle, chest open. It was supposed to be plastic, but I swear I saw it rise and fall, like it was breathing. I stepped closer. Its eyes were glass. But behind them, movement. Small twitching things like worms. I blinked. They were gone. I turned to leave. The door had closed behind me. And the room was different. Brighter. Cleaner. Fresh blood pooled under the table. A scalpel clinked to the floor. And then the intercom hissed again. "Come back downstairs, Mr. Graves." It wasn't a whisper now. It was a voice. Calm. Gentle. Familiar. It sounded like me. I reached the first floor. The lights near the lobby had gone out. The hallway leading to the security room was longer now, at least 20 steps more than before. I took them slow. Something waited at the end. I felt it. The walls began to close in. Not physically, but in the mirrors the reflections were closer than I was. Each one smiled. I wasn't. Inside the office, the monitor was on. It showed a camera feed I hadn't seen before. Sub-level 1. That floor wasn't supposed to exist. There was no access. But I watched the grainy black and white footage. Figure stood in the center of the screen, not moving, not breathing, just staring. Right at the camera, right at me. The intercom clicked on again, but no voice this time, just breathing. Deep, wet animal. The light above the door flickered and went dark, and, in that second, the monitor feed changed. Now it showed the guard's office, from the inside. I was on screen, sitting at the desk. Only, I wasn't moving. I wasn't blinking. I was just smiling. And behind me, in the reflection of the glass cabinet, a figure stood in the shadows. A shape I hadn't noticed before. Until it moved. Until it reached out. The human brain can only process so much wrong before it starts filling in blanks. The lights flicker. Faulty wiring. Voices over the intercom. Signal bleed. But what do you call it when the walls are in different places every night? The night after the monitor showed me sitting in my own body, unmoving. I didn't sleep. I sat at the desk until sunrise. When the daytime manager came in, he asked if I was okay. I told him the feed had glitched. He looked at me like he didn't understand. "There's no feed," he said. "Those cameras were disconnected years ago." The IF logbook had new entries, times I never wrote, events I don't remember. 1:34 a.m. Heard them humming again near room 12006 a.m. Forgot who I was for 2 minutes. My name signed at the bottom, but I don't recall holding a pen. The next night I did my patrol early. I wanted to get ahead of whatever was happening. Floor 1 was the same, so was 2. But floor 3 changed. There was a hallway where there hadn't been before. Long, narrow, dustless. Each door numbered in black paint. But the numbers weren't normal. Not 301, 302. Instead, Sewer, Yi-A, Yi-A, Z8 at the end of the corridor. A single steel door, marked with nothing but a blood-red handprint. I turned the handle. It was locked. Good. I wasn't sure I would have survived what was behind it. On the way back, I passed the children's curative room. The carousel horse had moved. Now it faced the wall. The doll in the crib was missing. In its place, a handwritten note. No more screaming. Be still like the others. The elevator dinged again. This time, it opened on its own. I didn't move, didn't speak, but I watched the doors slide apart to reveal a dark hallway. No light, no signs, just something wet glistening on the floor. Drip, drip. I stood frozen. Then I heard it. The child's lullaby, coming from the elevator, sung in a voice I knew. My mother's. But she died 10 years ago. I closed the elevator and shut off the button panel with the emergency breaker. But when I looked back at the panel, it was lit again. Button. One glowing red, not green. Red. I went to the records room. I'd had enough. I needed blueprints, floor plans, anything. Inside a file drawer labeled Historical Architecture, 1931 and 1966, I found it. A blueprint, Ashcroft Museum. Original build, 3 floors, main lobby. Maintenance level. No basement, no sublevels. But drawn in faint pencil, clearly later deliberately added, was a 4th level. Annex, surgical storage, level 1. I flipped it over. Written in the corner, seal it with mirrors, lock it with memory, do not go below. The rest of the night was a blur, shadows where they shouldn't be. The sound of breathing behind the glass exhibits, a mannequin missing its head. But in the next hallway, the head sat in a chair, eyes open, looking at me. Back at the office, I checked the feed. Nothing abnormal, except one new camera had turned on. Cam 13. Room 000. That room didn't exist in the real building. Not on the floor plans. Not on the patrol map. Not anywhere. But there it was. Static, heavy, glitching, a single chair in the center, facing the wall. Someone sat in it. Same posture, same slouched spine, same work boots. I leaned closer, and the figure turned its head. Slow, mechanical, and smiled. It was me. I ran. Down the third floor, back to the hall with the strange doors, but it was gone. The hallway didn't exist anymore. Just a blank wall. I punched it until my knuckles bled. All I got was silence. On my final round before dawn, I passed by the patient zero case again. It wasn't empty this time. There was a mannequin inside now, strapped down, face covered, a name tag on its chest, Elliot Graves. Admitted, ongoing status, still dreaming. I stumbled back, fell, hit my head. When I blinked, the case was empty again. I crawled back to the security room, sat in the chair, looked at the monitor, all. Cameras off, except one. Cam 0. It didn't show any part of the museum. It showed me, in this room, right now. Only I wasn't moving, just sitting, staring. Until my own voice came through the intercom. If you can hear this, you're still dreaming. Don't wake up. I don't even know why. It's like something in me had already surrendered. Like I belonged there. Like I always had. I sat in the office staring at the logbook. A new page had been added. Not written in my hand. Not in anyone's hand I recognized. It looked typed, but no typewriter was on the desk. 1 p.m. Descent begins. Tonight. We're glad you stayed. No signature, no ink smudge, nothing. Just pure, clean madness. At 10:15 p.m., the elevator turned itself on. I didn't press anything. It dinged once. Paused. Then opened. Inside, clean steel walls, mirrored. The panel only showed one option. I stepped in. I didn't want to, but my feet moved anyway. The descent took 4 minutes. Too long. Far too long for a single floor. I counted the seconds. I didn't blink, and in that mirrored steel, I saw myself split into dozens of versions. Some smiling, some crying, one trying to break the glass, and one not moving at all. Floor. The doors opened into a hallway lined with operating lights that flickered overhead like dying insects. The smell was copper, sterile, and wrong. There were stretchers on both sides, each covered in sheets, each one breathing. Tried the first room on the left. The door was unmarked. Inside, a surgical theater, but the seats were filled with mannequins wearing lab coats, all watching. And in the center, an operating table. Blood still wet on the tile, and written on the wall. Behind it, the first cut is the only one that matters. I stumbled back out, tried another room. This one had mirrors, thousands of them, ceiling to floor. Each reflection showed me at a different point in life. Age 6, age 12, age 19. And in the center of the room, a chair, strapped with belts and iron rings, and on it, a version of me, stitched from chin to stomach, eyes wide open, whispering, not to me, but through me. Don't forget who you were. Don't forget who you are. Don't forget who you'll become. I turned to run, and smacked face first into a wall that hadn't been there before. The room had changed. No mirrors now. Just walls covered in photographs. All of me. Wearing different uniforms, different security badges, same face, different dates, all labeled Elliot Graves. I felt the air shift. Heavy, close, and behind me, a breath. Not mine, not human. I woke up in the stairwell. No memory of how I got there. Blood on my hands. Not mine. Keys in my pocket I'd never seen before, and a torn photo in my shirt, a boy, half his, Face burned. On the back, patient number 33, rejected. Subject unstable. Recommend recycling. I didn't finish the patrol that night. I didn't return to the guard room. I didn't look at the cameras. I walked through the halls until I ended up in the children's wing again. Except now, all the murals were blank. Paint peeled off. The carousel, horse, burned, the crib, empty, and scratched into the wall where the doll used to sit. You are not him. That night I went home. I tried to sleep, but my reflection kept blinking out of sync. I turned off the lights, laid on the couch, and in the seat, pitch black, I heard the intercom click on again. In my own apartment. It's time to come back. I don't know if I ever left, or if I was just allowed to forget for a while. But Ashcroft remembers me. 3 days. That's how long I stayed home. Didn't call, didn't go in, didn't speak to anyone. I sat on the floor of my apartment watching the wall across from me because I swore every time I blinked, it breathed. The sound started the second night. Soft. Almost nothing. Like paper sliding over tile, but it got louder. Wet. Insistent. Coming from inside the walls. I called my landlord. He knocked. Listened. Said it was the pipes. I told him pipes didn't whisper names. Didn't knock back. Didn't giggle like children. He told me to get some rest, so I smashed a hole in the drywall. Nothing inside, just a space. Empty, and a note, folded, yellowed, taped inside. You're getting warmer, Elliot. I didn't go back to Ashcroft by choice. I woke up in the break room chair, still wearing my security jacket. No memory of driving there. The logbook already had my name. Shift start, 11:02 p.m. He finally came back. My handwriting. Again. The museum. Was different. It knew I was back. Lights flickered longer. Exhibits faced the wrong direction. All the mannequins now had my face. Smiling. Some stitched at the mouth. Some staring upward. One, crying. The radio began picking up static. Then music. Children's music box melodies, skipping like broken vinyl. The intercom whispered in my voice. If you don't remember, we'll help you. If you don't return, we'll find you. If you resist, we'll take you apart. I tried to exit. Front door, bricked shut. Windows, painted black from the outside. Fire escape, gone, like it never existed. So I ran, through the main exhibit hall, through the wax galleries, back to the staircase. But the halls shifted, turned in impossible directions. Some curved in on themselves. One hallway dropped straight downward, like gravity. Forgot its job. I nearly fell in, grabbed a mounted display and swung back. The plaque read, Elliot Graves, donor, whole body accepted. I screamed. No one answered, except the museum, which laughed. Back in the mirror room, the reflections no longer matched me. One bled from the eyes. One wore a surgeon's mask. One floated upside down. But one, just one, pleaded with me. Mouth moving. No. Sound. He held up a sign. You're not the first. You won't be the last. I broke every mirror I could. Screamed. Cried. When I collapsed, I saw my face in the broken glass. And behind it, a shape. No features. Just a white mask. And hands pressed against the inside of the mirror, pushing outward. I ran back to the sub-level, 2, room 1, but it wasn't there. Just an endless hallway of surgical gurneys, each one covered, each one sobbing. I tore the sheet off the nearest one. Beneath it, a child, pale, stitched shut, eyes open. They blinked, and in my own voice, whispered, he's in the walls now. The lights went out, pitch black, silence, then skittering, all around me, faster, closer. I turned on my flashlight. The beam caught the edge of the ceiling, where a figure crawled, sideways, spider-like. Pale limbs bent the wrong way, its face blank until it opened its mouth. My face, my voice, my scream. I ran, trapped in the looping halls, turned every corner into the same hallway. Until finally, I saw the light from the security office. I dove in, locked the door, sat, shaking, watching the monitors. One by one, each screen blinked off. Until only Cam 9 remained. It showed a mirror, just one, in a blank room. In the reflection, not me, not anymore. Something else had taken my place, and it waved. I don't remember falling asleep. But when I opened my eyes, I wasn't in the security office. I was in room 000A again. The chair in the center. The mirrors gone. Walls now made of thick red cloth that pulsed, slowly, like a heartbeat. I tried to stand, but my body didn't move. It wasn't mine anymore. It didn't feel real, like I was borrowing skin from someone who no longer needed it. The lights above me buzzed and blinked, and a film projector turned on somewhere out of sight. On the far wall, a screen dropped down from the ceiling, and then it started to play. A video, black and white, static-laced. A man sat at the very desk I'd been using for weeks. Same chair, same posture, same jacket, same face, mine. Test subject Graves, cycle 47, a voice said from off-camera. Observation, deterioration at 36 hours, suggesting deeper implantation. The man on the screen laughed, but it wasn't a normal laugh. It was hollow, distant, like it had been recorded 1,000,000 years ago. "You can't implant a soul," he said. "You just make noise in a shell." Then he looked directly into the lens. His eyes locked with mine. "Stop watching me, Elliot. You've done this before." I blacked out again. Woke up in the archives. The film projector nowhere in sight, but on the floor beside me, stacked in neat, symmetrical piles, were boxes labeled iteration logs. Everyone stamped with a version of my name. Graves, E. 1972. Graves, E. 1954 Graves, E. 1923 Graves, E. The last box was empty, except for a mirror. I picked it up, looked in, but the reflection was not me. It was a little boy, barely 7, staring back with ash smeared across his cheeks, and his mouth slowly moved. "You still think you're the first?" I threw the mirror, smashed it, ran down the hallway. But the building began to tilt, literally shift beneath my feet, like it had a spine, a mind, a direction. Walls reconfigured, doors appeared, then blinked away. I turned corners that looped into rooms. I just left, like Ashcroft had learned how to mimic my memories and use them to trap me. At the end of one hall, I saw it. A door marked Administrator, Restricted Access Unlocked. Inside, old filing cabinets and reels of recorded tapes. One, played on its own, my voice on it. Day 73. I've stopped dreaming. That's how I know it's working. They said the bleed would fade, but I'm still hearing him. The other me. On the desk, Polaroid photos. Each one taken from inside the museum. In every single one, the same shadowy figure stood in the corner, watching, unmoving. Not a single person mentioned it, not in the memos, not in the notes, like they couldn't see it. But in the last photo, the figure was gone, and the one taking the picture was being watched. By me. Suddenly, the fire alarms blared, but no water came from the ceiling, only dust, ash, a thick, white cloud that choked the hallway and blinded the lights. In that moment, I heard the footsteps, not loud, not human, soft, wet, clawing. They came from behind the walls, inside the vents, from beneath the floors. I ran. I passed the children's wing again, now overgrown with vines. Impossible vines, pulsing, breathing, coiling up from beneath the tile. In the crib, the doll had returned. Its head turned again. But this time it spoke. "This is the last cycle, Elliot. Make it count." I reached the security office just as the lights cut again. This time, the monitors didn't flicker on. Instead, they displayed cycle reset. In 03 degoirs. Please return to starting position. "Thank you for your service, Mr. Graves." I screamed into the void, tore the cables from the walls, but the lights kept blinking. The countdown continued, and a door I'd never seen before slid open beside the camera wall. Inside, darkness, and footsteps approaching, not mine, not human. Something else. Something that used to be me. The worst part isn't that you forget, it's that something else remembers. The door swallowed me whole, no hinges, no frame, just opened like a wound in the wall, inside. Pitch black, but not silent. No, never silent anymore. I heard whispers of myself, whispers of others who wore my name. "You should have left. You never left. You were never supposed to leave." I stepped in, and the door closed behind me without a sound. The light turned on. Dim. Blue. Artificial. A small room. Circular. Ceilingless. No corners. Just walls made of flesh stretched tight across bone-like beams, and in the center, a chair. Not just any chair. The chair, Zedora A, and sitting in it, me. But older, wasted. Pale and trembling, like he'd been here centuries. His eyes flicked up. Met mine. They were hollow yet endless. "You came back slower this time." I froze. Last time it was 49 days. Before that, 32. The first time? I never made it here. I screamed until my throat bled. He coughed. Something black leaked from his mouth. "You still think this is about a job?" The walls shifted. Faces pressed through. Hundreds. All versions of me. Twisting, smiling, screaming, melting. One leaned close, only a thin layer of membrane between us. We all wore the jacket, Elliot. The man in the chair motioned to the wall opposite him. It peeled back like wet paper. Behind it, reels. Dozens of them. Footage of cycles. Every iteration. Every time I'd been hired. Worked. Forgotten. Recycled. Reset. I watched one reel as it flickered, onto a floating screen. I was laughing, joking with another guard. Then something behind me stepped forward. Cut to black. The next screen. I was working in the archives, eyes glazed, writing in the logbook over and over. "I will not forget again. I will not forget again. I will not forget again." I turned away. I couldn't look anymore. They made Ashcroft from the bones, of a place that was never meant to be found, the man in the chair said. But now it finds us. He reached into his chest, pulled something out. A photo. Cracked, stuck with blood. He handed it to me. It showed me as a child. Same as the image in the mirror before. Same ash across my cheek. Same hollow stare. Behind me, the Ashcroft building still under construction. The foundation laid in a perfect circle. Exactly like this room. "This is the last cycle," he said. "You have two choices. Take the chair," he patted the seat, "or burn the reel." A fire lit behind the wall. Real flame. Flickering. Hungry. And beside it, just one reel labeled Elliot Graves. Final memory. I stepped forward, lifted it. The man in the chair nodded. You'll never know if this ends it. You'll never know if you're real. But the forgetting will stop. I tossed the reel into the fire. The room screamed, not the man, the walls, the building. Ashcroft itself, shrieking like a thing being killed. The ceiling cracked. Smoke poured. In flames licked the walls. I turned to run, but everything was falling apart around me. The corridors twisted, melted, reformed, trying to trap me again. I sprinted, through the archive, through the children's wing, now in flames, past the wax figures, which melted into flesh. One grabbed my leg. It was me. I kicked it off, screamed. I reached the main lobby. The doors, no longer bricked. Glass shattered outward from the heat. I dove through, rolled onto the pavement, smoke behind me, alarms blaring, and for the first time in weeks, the sky. Stars, air, freedom. I coughed, cried, laughed. I was out. But then I heard it. A distant ding, like an elevator. Behind me, across the street, was another building. No sign, no name, just one door. And a familiar glow coming from behind the glass. Cam 0, active Graves, E shift. Ongoing. E looked down at myself. I was wearing the jacket again, the badge. And I realized I never applied for this job. I never left. I had already died once. Not the kind of death that ends things, but the kind that leaves a stain. The Great War took everything. My friends, my sanity, and nearly my life, until the fever came. Spanish influenza swept the camps like a second wave of divine punishment. I survived, somehow. But I was different. Hollow. Like a man-shaped shell wandering aimlessly through the ruins. That's when I began taking pictures of the dead. They didn't blink. They didn't look away. They didn't cry or lie or beg for second chances. They just waited. Posed in stillness for the lens. Families found comfort in it. One last glimpse before the dirt swallowed them. And me? I found silence. Until the letter came. The envelope was damp when I touched it. No return address. Just one sentence inside. The dead will not sleep in Gravewood. Hollow. Bring your camera. It wasn't a request. It was a summons. I don't remember deciding to go. One minute I was in Bristol, watching frost gather on my window. The next, I was on a train heading into fog-drenched moors. A village barely marked on any map. A village that had stopped sending mail months ago. I arrived at dusk. The snow here didn't melt. It crusted over buildings like armor. The air was so still, even breath seemed sacrilegious. The station was long abandoned. I stepped off the last car into silence. No welcome party, no innkeeper, no carriage. Just a single child standing in the snow with eyes like winter sky. She couldn't have been older than 10. "You're Thomas Gray," she said, before I even introduced myself. "They said you'd come. The dead won't stop talking." Her name was Clara Winters. She led me down narrow, frostbitten lanes between crooked houses. Wooden windows sealed tight with rusted nails. Doors painted shut. Smoke rose from only 3 chimneys in the whole village. "They think you'll help," she whispered as we passed an old church. "But it's not you they want. It's your lens." I was given a cold room above an abandoned butcher shop. No heat, no mirror. Just a chair, a table, and 2 blankets. My equipment, tripod, dry plate camera, flash powder, sat untouched in its wooden trunk. It felt heavier than it should have. That night, I dreamt of clicking shutters and open graves. And when I awoke, a single photograph lay on the floor. It was of me, asleep, mouth open, a shadow leaning over my face. I was called to a home the next morning. A family of 3 had died. Father, mother, infant child. No signs of sickness, no signs of violence, just stillness. Faces frozen in sleep, eyes wide and wet. I set up my camera, flash, shutter, record. But when I developed the plate, the mother's mouth was slightly open, smiling, and the baby's eyes had moved. They always look different in the photo, Clara said, peering over my shoulder, because the dead don't like to pretend anymore. Later that evening I returned to the church. Its bell tower was silent, but inside, a smell. Iron and ash. The priest was gone, they said. Disappeared months ago after burying a dozen children. Some say he went mad. Some say he's still in the walls. I found the pulpit collapsed. Pages from a Bible scattered. Most of the passages were crossed out. One sentence circled over and over, and the graves shall give up their dead. The nights became colder, not just in temperature, but in feeling. I started hearing things, not voices, not really. Gasps, breaths. Sometimes names whispered just outside my door. Once I heard my mother's voice, clear as memory. Tommy, come home. Don't look back. But my mother had died of typhoid in 1916. I took my camera and snapped a photo of the hallway. When the image developed, there were footprints in the snow. Inside, leading to my bed. Clara told me about the mine shaft outside the village, sealed after a collapse in 1899. They brought the bodies back, she said, but some didn't stay dead. The mine, she claimed, was dug too deep. Found something older than bones. That night, the bell rang, but no one pulled the rope. I conducted another session for a grieving widow. Her husband died 2 nights ago, found frozen, arms crossed like a corpse. Yet he had been healthy that same morning. When I took the photo, something blurred behind him. A smudge, a ripple. I adjusted the exposure. The blur became a face. Mouth gaping. Eyes like burned holes. Behind me later I heard scratching at the window. When I checked, there were handprints in the frost. From the inside. I checked every room. Nothing. Until I opened the cabinet and found a portrait of myself. Dated 1874. The village elder finally came to speak with me. He was blind in one eye. Wore a wolfskin coat. Smelled like salt and dirt. He didn't greet me, just said, "The soil is wrong here. The dead never rotted proper. You keep taking their pictures. You're giving them faces again. And they'll want more." I left. But his words stayed. And when I returned to my room, all my undeveloped plates had been exposed. Each one showing me, but not me. One was smiling, one was rotting, one was reaching, through the lens. That night I burned the photos. But the smoke curled into words on the ceiling. You already gave them your face. They don't sleep. They just wait for you to forget they're there. Clara led me to the edge of Gravewood Hollow. Past fields swallowed by frost and fences that leaned like drunk old men. The mine shaft loomed ahead like a black wound carved into the earth. Its wood braces were cracked, frostbitten. A crooked iron sign above the opening read, Ashwick Mine, Esterner 1871, reclaimed 1899. They say it buried 37, Clara said, but I've seen more than that walk back out. I knelt at the entrance. The wind howled from deep inside, even though the air outside was still. A photograph lay half buried in the snow. It showed men in mining gear, pickaxes, raised, smiles wide. But in the shadows behind them, something hunched, faceless, twice as tall. I didn't go inside. Not yet. But something had changed. As I walked back into the village, I noticed frost on doors that had previously been warm. Candles blown out behind sealed windows. Dogs barking, not at me, but behind me. At night, the sounds came again. Whispers, breaths. But this time, footsteps. Clara became distant. She didn't speak during meals, sat by the window with her chin on her knees, staring at the chapel. I found her outside my room at 3:11 a.m. just standing, barefoot, whispering. He's underneath the snow. When I touched her shoulder, she flinched, and her pupils vanished. Just white, like her eyes had been flooded from the inside. She collapsed. I carried her to her bed. She didn't wake until morning. When she did, she said, "Don't trust the mirror. It doesn't reflect you anymore." I developed the latest plate from a session. It was a young woman found in her garden. Frozen stiff mid-scream, one hand clenched around her own hair. But in the photograph, she was smiling, hands folded, eyes shut, at peace. I took it to the constable. He shook his head. "You photographers always tamper with these things." I showed him the raw plate. Same smile, same lie. "Then maybe she wasn't screaming when she died," he muttered. But Clara leaned close and whispered, "She screamed inside. That's why the thing wore her outside." Later, I returned to the site where she was found. The snow was gone, melted in a perfect circle. No sunlight, no heat source, just bare dirt, and dozens of tiny finger bones reaching up from the earth. Mrs. Marlin, the midwife, invited me to join her seance. 5 villagers sat in a tight ring. Clara was not allowed in. Candles, dried heather, symbols drawn in salt. The room smelled of roots and wax and something faintly metallic. They called to the spirits with old words, half Latin, half something older. I held Clara's locket in my palm. The flame dimmed, then flared. "Thomas!" a voice hissed. Not spoken, not heard. "Stop showing their faces. You're waking the hungry ones." One candle exploded. The table cracked in half. A gust of icy wind threw us all to the floor. Mrs. Marlin had bite marks on her neck. No one saw who did it. But every photo in my satchel had been turned face down. Clara brought me to the graveyard. Half the markers were gone, eaten by time. Some graves had been dug recently, despite no new deaths. "They don't bury them deep," she said. "If they did, they couldn't get back out." In one open plot, the coffin had cracked open from within. Empty, fingernail scratches lined the inside of the lid. Nearby, I found a wooden toy soldier, the name Graham etched on the bottom. Clara whispered, "That was my brother's. He drowned before I was born." I took a photo of the empty grave. When I developed it, Clara stood next to me in the frame. But in the photo, her face was gone, just a smooth blur. That night, the bell tower rang again. The rope had rotted months ago. No one had climbed the tower in years, but the sound shook the ground, and something answered. From beneath the chapel, a knocking. 1, 2, 3 times. Then silence. Clara cried in her sleep, murmured a name I'd never heard. Elegant. "He's hungry again." I opened my closet before dawn. My coat was soaked, heavy. I reached in, pulled out a corpse photo of myself, eyes closed, hands crossed, snow still melting in my hair. The date, tomorrow. The ice doesn't melt. It remembers. Everything it covers. It keeps. It began with a sound, not a scream, not a whisper, just a snap, like a tree limb cracking under weight. But when I looked outside my window, it wasn't a tree. It was the frozen river. A wide black fissure now tore through the center of it, steaming, even in winter. Clara stood on the bank in her nightgown, barefoot, smiling. I ran to her. The moment my boots hit the edge of the cracked ice, the wind died. Not slowed, not softened. Stopped, as if the world forgot how to breathe. The temperature plummeted. I heard the faint sound of a camera shutter behind me, but I hadn't brought mine. Clara looked at the ice, then at me. They're not frozen anymore. They're waiting for the thaw. When I tried to pull her back, her hand burned my skin. Frostbite from touching a child. I returned to my room and found my phonograph was playing. But I hadn't wound it. The record scratched, then spoke. Not music, not voices, but breathing, and under it, children, laughing, backwards. I reversed the recording manually. The message was faint but clear. He fell first, into the pit, and now we follow. The wind blew my window open. When I turned around, another photograph sat on my pillow. It was of the chapel's basement, but I'd never been there. In the photo, I was standing at the altar, arms raised, surrounded by bones. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I packed 2 lanterns, a satchel of flashplates, and my revolver. Clara followed, even when I told her not to. She just said, "If you go alone, he'll show you everything. If I go, he only shows enough." The mine mouth yawned wide, as if it remembered us. The air was heavy, not cold, thick, like breathing through a wet shroud. Steps echoed long after they should have stopped. Rusted lanterns dangled like hanged men. Symbols lined the walls. Chalk faded to charcoal. "What do they mean?" I asked. "They're promises," Clara whispered, "to keep what lives here. Inside." We found the first body 30 feet in. Not fresh. Preserved. A man in miner's garb. Mouth open in silent scream. His face frozen in perfect horror. Fingers broken off mid-claw. A second body stood behind him. Upright. Still holding a pickaxe. Eyes gouged out. And yet, the pupils followed us. We reached a chamber called the Echo Pit. Clara's voice dropped to a whisper. "This is where they tried the ritual." Charred bones littered the edges. An altar stood crooked in the center, carved from black stone. My lantern flickered, then pulsed, like a heartbeat. Each flicker lit a new face along the wall. Stitched, eyeless, smiling. I set my camera on the tripod and took a long exposure of the altar. The flash lit the cavern like lightning. When the image developed, it showed movement. Blurs. Crawling shapes. Figures hunched over Clara. Feeding. We ran. But the mine shifted. Passages that had been wide now narrowed. The way back no longer led to daylight, but to a wooden staircase. New. Impossible. It hadn't been there before. We climbed and emerged beneath the church. The chapel's stained glass windows no longer depicted saints. They now bore images of the pit, the bell tower, the mine, and in every pane, a faceless figure watching. Clara collapsed in the aisle, whispered the same words over and over. "They drowned but never left. They drowned but never left." She began to hum an old melody, one I'd only ever heard in dreams. The priest's diary sat waiting on the altar, pages open, dried blood used for ink. One page read, "We prayed to stop the sickness." But the sickness was listening, and it came, instead. Another. "They sealed the pit." But sealing is not the same as forgetting. We descended to the crypt beneath the church. Water seeped from the walls. Not clean water. Thick, brackish, moving on its own. It formed words in the stone. Return. Clara pointed to the corner. Dozens of small shoes sat in a pile. Children's shoes. Damp. Lined neatly, as if waiting to be worn again. Above them, dozens of handprints, upside down. I took one last photo. The flash fired. When the plate developed, it showed us in the crypt, but we weren't alone. Behind us, hands reached from the ceiling, and one face, mine, but older, decaying. The door behind us slammed shut. We weren't alone anymore, and Clara said, "He likes you, Thomas. He's worn your skin before." The church was never a sanctuary. It was a disguise. A bell tower for something that hungered to be heard. We tried the chapel doors for hours. No budge, no cracks, no sound from outside. Even the storm above had gone mute, like we were buried in cotton. The air in the crypt turned heavier, damp, rot sweet. I lit my last candle. The flame bent sideways, as if pulled. Clara wouldn't speak. She sat curled in the center of the flooded floor, eyes unfocused, humming the song again. That cursed melody. I wrote it down phonetically. It didn't match any folk tune I knew. Every fourth note sounded like a gasp. I whispered her name. She turned slowly and whispered back, "Do you hear the bell now?" Hours passed. Maybe days. Time no longer held shape. We climbed the spiral stone steps out of the crypt, ascending into the heart of the bell tower. The stairs were crumbling, warped. Moss grew upside down. Clara's reflection in the stained glass. Window moved out of sync. She smiled at me in the glass when she wasn't smiling in real life. The bell was missing. In its place, a large hanging skin, sewn from parchment, covered in inked symbols. Clara touched it. The parchment moved. I saw letters form, black lines crawling like insects. Your face belongs to him. Behind it, in the darkness of the rafters, something breathed. Slow, wet, like lungs filled with dirt. I took a photo. When it developed, the bell tower had no walls, just open sky, and Clara, standing on the very edge, arms wide, welcoming something that wasn't there yet. When we finally forced our way out, Gravewood Hollow had changed. The village was less. Buildings half collapsed that hadn't been. Smoke no longer rose from any chimney, and the silence had turned hostile. We found the constable's badge on a fence post, cracked down the center. Mrs. Marlin's door was open. Blood trailed from her doorstep to the chapel, and the woods behind the graveyard were filled with whispers that didn't match any language I knew. Clara didn't ask about them. She just said, "He's collecting now." Everyone who ever looked at the mine, I checked my camera trunk. Every undeveloped photo plate, gone. Only one left. And when I held it to the light, my face, but hollowed. No eyes, no mouth, and antlers. That night, I tried to sleep. The fire wouldn't light. Every time I blinked, the room changed slightly. A chair moved, a shadow shifted. My coat breathed. I heard humming again. Not from Clara's room. From beneath the floorboards. Opened the trapdoor to the root cellar and found her there, standing, eyes white, whispering in two voices, one hers, the other deeper, wet, ancient. When she looked at me, her irises returned. She whispered, "He's inside me, but only because I invited him. He said you'd understand." I backed away. She reached out, fingers longer than before, as if her body was reshaping, not all at once, bit by bit. I found the remaining pages of the priest's diary behind the chapel altar, wrapped in old skin. They spoke of a ritual in 1873, a famine, a sickness, children dying, and a man from the mines who spoke of a god beneath the stone. Not God of heaven, not God of fire, but God of faces. They fed him the bodies, and in return, he gave them peace. For a time, until the faces began appearing without bodies, in walls, in soup, in windows. Every reflection wore someone else's grief. We sealed the mine, but not before he found the child. She was the door. I turned the last page. It was a photo of Clara from 1873. That night, the bell tower shook. The earth screamed. Not cracked, not thundered, screamed. Clara stood in the middle of the graveyard, arms lifted, snow circling her body like ash. The graves opened, not dug, not collapsed, opened, like mouths. Inside, not skeletons, not rot, nothing, emptied, as if the bodies had stood up and walked out. Clara looked at me. He's ready, and you'll be the last face he wears. He doesn't take your body. He takes your outline, leaves you hollow and still breathing. I woke up in a stranger's bed. The room was mine, but smaller, dustier. Photos on the walls I didn't take, and my face, different in each one. Thinner, older, or missing completely. I stared at a mirror on the far wall. At first, nothing seemed wrong, but when I turned away, it moved on its own. Smiled. Without me. I blinked, and it was gone. But a message had been written in condensation across the glass. Your face is borrowed. Clara no longer knocked before entering. She walked differently now, less like a child, more like something practiced. She held a bundle of dried herbs, bones, and what looked like a piece of scalp. We need to prepare your outline, she said. He'll use it soon. I tried to leave the village, packed my camera, phonograph, diary, walked toward the snow line. But the path never changed. I passed the same frozen tree 6 times. Eventually, I dropped a photo plate next to it. 50 steps later, it was at my feet. Again. No matter where I went, Gravewood Hollow waited on the other side, like it folded around me. Clara followed, always 30 paces behind. Humming. I heard whispers in the wind. The dead don't stay in graves. Graves stay in them. At sunset, I looked in my camera lens and saw myself developing backwards. Aged. Skin peeling. Then bone. Then dust. Then something else looking back. That night, the village filled again. Not with people. With echoes. Bodies moving. Through homes, lighting hearths, walking streets, but silent. Their eyes glowed faint orange. They didn't breathe, didn't blink. They moved like film reel projections across the snow. Clara waved at them. He brought them back. Just like before, I shouted. They stopped moving and turned toward me all at once. Their mouths opened in unison. No sound came out. But in my head, screaming, a chorus of agony, sorrow, and names, one whispered louder than the others. Thomas, Thomas, you're not Thomas anymore. I wrote my name 50 times in my notebook. Each time it looked different. My handwriting changed. One version, I didn't recognize at all. Blocky. Left-handed. The page bled where the ink touched. Literally. My finger was bleeding by the time I finished the page. I hadn't noticed. I turned to Clara. What am I? She didn't blink, didn't smile, just said, "A vessel, like me. But he likes your shape better." I smashed the mirror. The shards all showed different reflections. One sobbing, one smiling, one completely gone. Clara led me to the chapel. But it was no longer a church. The pews were gone. The altar now a pit of brackish water. The walls bled steam. The bell tower was silent. Not because it was empty, but because something bigger was breathing inside it. Clara traced a circle around me. Ash, bone dust, broken lenses. Stand still. He's almost ready to come through. But if you run, he'll wear you backwards. I asked what that meant. She just giggled. A wind surged. The candles died, but light came anyway. From under the floorboards, a red, wet glow. It pulsed, like veins, like a second heart beneath the chapel. I looked into the pit and saw my own face staring back. Mouth sewn shut, eyes wide open. "Thomas Gray," it whispered without lips. "You are our favorite mask." The bell finally rang. 3 times, but not from above, from below. The floor cracked. Clara rose off the ground. No strings, no force, just levitating. Limbs loose, hair falling backward like gravity had been reversed. She screamed once, then laughed for a full minute in my voice. The dead from the village appeared in the chapel, silent, waiting. I backed away, but there was no door, no window, only mirrors, framing the walls. Each one showed a different scene, but everyone had me in it, dying, wearing a different face, then nothing. Darkness, no breath, no sound, just a whisper in my skull. "Your outline is perfect. Come now, wear yourself." Some faces are never meant to be seen. Some names, never meant to be spoken. I spoke mine one last time, and Gravewood answered. The chapel floor had vanished. There was no more building, no more sky, only void and a sound like old wood groaning beneath a sea. Clara hovered in the center, her arms bone-thin, mouth sewn shut with hair. She looked peaceful, wrongfully so. I stood, on nothing, but my boots touched ground that shouldn't exist. The light pulsing below was no longer red. It was flesh-colored, alive. The whispers were louder now, not just in my head, but all around, in my voice, repeating every regret I'd ever had, every name of the dead I'd photographed, and one name more. Gray. Thomas Gray. The skin remembers you. It rose from the pit not as a shape, but as a failure. A face half-formed, smiling wrong, a tongue too long. Teeth backwards. It spoke without sound, moving lips behind skin. It wore 100 almost faces, including mine. Every one of them not quite right. It moved like wind under skin, tore a reflection into the air, and stepped out of it. It walked toward me with my mother's voice, then my own, then silence and its eyes. They were mirror lenses, showing me endless versions of my death. Clara's voice echoed softly, speaking without mouth. He was made from grief, from the ones we buried wrong, the ones we forgot. You're not supposed to remember him. That's why he remembers you. The entity needed my shape, not my soul, just the echo of me, my bones, my regrets. I stood in the circle Clara had drawn with ash and broken glass. The entity extended a hand, flesh unwrapped from it as it reached, each finger a different person's nail, a different person's cry. It offered a final whisper. You can live forever, but not as you. I looked at Clara. She mouthed, "Burn it." I struck the camera flash directly over the circle. The magnesium burst. The ashes ignited. The light didn't illuminate the entity. It disintegrated it, screaming. Not in sound, but in faces. All the faces it had stolen exploded from its body, each flying away into shadow. One paused beside me, my sister smiling, then gone. Clara collapsed. So did the chapel. I awoke buried under splinters, alone. The village? Gone. Snow untouched. No footprints, just silence. And Clara's doll sitting on the steps of where the chapel used to be. Inside it, a photograph. Me, but older. Smiling. Eyes black. I left the village behind, walked for what felt like days. Eventually, I reached the town of Thornwick, but no one knew Gravewood Hollow. No one ever had. I've rented a room, far from everything. But every night, I wake to the sound of a bell. At 3:17 a.m. No tower nearby. No church. Only my mirror. And the slow appearance of a second face next to mine. Each night, a little closer. Each night, a little more familiar. Clara's voice sometimes hums from my phonograph. The same old song. The melody changes slightly with each play, until tonight, when it played backward and whispered, "You left, but we stayed." The last page of my notebook is no longer blank. Someone wrote in it while I slept. Gray is only a name. You are his outline now. And under it, a sketch of me. Standing in the chapel, hands raised, eyes gone, surrounded by empty graves. The last image, a mirror, with no one in it, just snow falling behind the glass, inside a place that no longer exists, or maybe never did. They say isolation brings peace. But for me, isolation came in the form of a long, winding road wrapped in mist. Trees blurred into shadows. My wife, Vanessa, tapped nervously on the window with her fingernail as our daughter Lily hummed something, unintelligible in the back seat, the kind of tune kids make up. Strange, out of place, and somehow old. We were headed to a rental house in the Welsh countryside. Vanessa's agent said the place was perfect for her to prep for her next film, a period drama about betrayal and mental breakdown. How ironic. We needed the break. Or maybe Vanessa needed space. After what happened in Boston, the whispers, the trial, the media swarming our house like vultures, this was her chance to breathe. For me, it was supposed to be a second chance. A reboot. But the truth is, I never wanted to leave Boston. Because no matter where you go, you carry yourself with you. And my mind was never a safe place, especially after Rachel, my first wife. The one I couldn't save. The one they said I might have murdered. We reached the village, if you could even call it that. Just 3 stone cottages, a postbox, and a crooked old man sitting on a stool outside a grocery hut, eyeing us as if he could see the rot behind my smile. Vanessa waved at him. He didn't blink, just pointed. Behind him, a narrow gravel path veered into a cluster of trees. No sign, no directions, just raw silence and a sky too gray for 2 in the afternoon. "That's the way," she said. I wanted to turn around. I really did. But I drove forward. The house emerged like a secret. Modern. Brutalist. Concrete walls mixed with glass panels that reflected the trees like teeth. It looked like a wealthy artist's bunker. Sleek. Silent. Soulless. Lily pressed her nose to the window. "It's big," she whispered. Vanessa was already out, stretching. Her long coat blew in the wind. She was beautiful, cold, distant, like marble in a museum. Lately, every time I looked at her, I felt like I was intruding. The air bit colder than it should have. As I unlocked the front door, the house clicked. No, It clicked itself open. I froze. Vanessa was too busy filming a short "Welcome to our getaway" video on her phone for Instagram. Hashtags lined her mouth more than words. Did now. Must be one of those auto sensor locks, I muttered, lying to myself. The door had no keypad. Inside, the house was impossibly big. Bigger than the outside suggested. The hallways seemed to bend. Rooms appeared where none should be. One corridor stretched longer the more I looked down it. "This place is sick," Vanessa said, her voice echoing weirdly. Sick had multiple meanings. That night, we settled in. Vanessa reviewed her lines in the guest room. Lily curled up with her stuffed rabbit, Mr. Whiskers, in the kids' bedroom upstairs. I found myself wandering the house every few hours, just wandering. One hallway near the main bathroom kept shifting. I swore the mirror on the left wall had been a painting earlier. I tried to measure the hallway with footsteps. 7 steps. Then again, 10. The third time, 16. When I sat down to write in the black notebook they left for guests, I found only one line written inside. "You should have left." No signature. No dates. Just bold, aggressive handwriting in black ink that wasn't smudged. My hand trembled. I shut the notebook and placed it on the counter. Then I turned around, and the notebook was already back on the dining table. At 3:07 a.m., I woke to the sound of water, not dripping, flowing, like a river inside the walls. I checked the faucets. Nothing. Pipes were dry. I walked past Lily's room. She was still, her rabbit placed neatly on the pillow beside her. But as I stepped away, I heard whispering, not hers, a male voice, from inside her room. I rushed in. Nothing, just her slow breathing. But the rabbit was gone. I found Mr. Whiskers down the hall, sitting in the center of the corridor, facing the wrong direction. The next morning I asked Vanessa if she heard anything weird. She smirked. "This is exactly what you need. Fresh air, no internet, time to reset." But I couldn't shake the feeling that the house was watching me, not haunted in a creaky ghost way. Haunted like it remembered things. That afternoon, I tried to sketch the floor plan. The living room led to a hallway, then to the kitchen. I walked it, drew it, measured it, then did it again. The kitchen kept moving, and at one point, I walked into a room that didn't exist before. A square white space with no windows, no furniture, and a single hanging light bulb. I turned around to call Vanessa. The door was gone. I stood in that blank room for 20 minutes, heart pounding, until Lily's voice called out, "Daddy?" Suddenly the door reappeared behind me, and she was there, holding Mr. Whiskers. "Why were you hiding in the walls?" she asked. I knelt down, forcing a smile. "I wasn't hiding, sweetheart. Just got confused." She looked me dead in the eye and said, "That man said you would lie." That night, I dreamed of Rachel again. She was in the bathtub, eyes open, mouth underwater, but her hand pointed to a wall. I woke drenched in sweat, carved into the bedroom. Wall above the headboard were fresh scratches, words etched into plaster. "Theo is dead. Ethan is next." I ran my fingers over it. The wall was smooth. Nothing there, except the message was written inside my dream journal, in my handwriting, and I hadn't written in it for months. It began with shadows that didn't align. I stood in the kitchen, holding a lukewarm cup of coffee that had been hot 3 minutes ago. The windows let in a pearly light, the kind that only showed up in fog-drenched mornings. It looked like morning, but the clock on the microwave blinked 11:44 p.m. Vanessa breezed in wearing a charcoal sweater, scrolling on her phone. "Morning," she said. "It's almost midnight." She paused. "No, it's not. It's like 8 a.m. I showed her the microwave clock. She showed me her phone screen. 4 a.m., 2 clocks in one house. Both wrong, or maybe both right. I checked my wristwatch. It said 3:15 p.m. Later that day, Lily drew a picture on the living room floor using her travel crayons. She proudly held it up to me with a grin. "Look, Daddy, it was a child's drawing of our house. Except, the windows were all black. Every room had someone inside. Tall, stick-like figures with round black heads and long arms." I smiled awkwardly. "Are those us?" She pointed. "That's you. That's Mommy. That's me. And the rest?" Her voice dropped into a whisper. "The people who live behind the walls." Vanessa laughed when I told her. She thought it was Lily's imagination, which she encouraged. She's creative. It's a phase. But later that evening, as I stood by the hallway near the bedroom, I noticed something that made my skin crawl. There was a corner that didn't make sense. I stood facing it, eyes narrowed. The two walls met in an angle that wasn't 90 degrees. It looked wrong, slightly twisted. The longer I stared, the more I felt something impossible. The hallway curved inward, as if the house was folding over itself. I ran my hand along the corner, feeling for seams or structural flaws. And then, the wall breathed. Just once. A deep, slow exhale. That night, I woke again. Something always stirred at that time. It had become a pattern. This time, there was a sound behind the closet door, like breathing, but not human. Wet. Uneven. I stepped closer and put my hand on the handle. "Daddy?" Lily's voice echoed from the hallway. I turned. She stood at the end of the hall, half in shadow, half in moonlight. "Come back to bed, sweetheart." She didn't move. Then, in a voice not hers, she said, "You're not supposed to open that door." I flicked on the hallway light. Lily was gone, but Mr. Whiskers was sitting there. His face now stitched with black thread, crookedly, like someone tried sewing the mouth shut. We'd never stitched it. Vanessa swore she hadn't touched it. Lily said she woke up and it was already like that. That night, we argued. Small things turned into venom. She accused me of bringing bad energy. I accused her of wanting this place more than she wanted us to be okay. "Maybe you want to stay here forever," she snapped. I looked at the notebook again before going to bed. A new line had been written. "You're already staying forever." The next morning, I did something desperate. I opened the front door and placed a small glass of water at the threshold. Then I walked back inside and tried to find that same door again. I walked the same steps, turned the same corner. Except the door wasn't there, just a blank wall. I retraced my steps, again and again. No exit. I texted the house manager who had emailed us the keys. No response. I checked the GPS. We weren't on the map anymore. The blue dot hovered in a blank green space, as if we had driven straight off the edge of the earth. Vanessa didn't believe me. She called it a glitch. She hadn't noticed anything strange. That's when I knew. The house was only targeting me. I went upstairs to find some calm. Lily's room was empty. At first I thought she was in the bathroom. Then I noticed something odd. Her closet door was slightly ajar, and something was scratching from the inside. I opened it slowly. It was a staircase, leading down, down, farther than the house could possibly extend. I stood there, heartbeat in my ears, and then I heard Lily's voice from deep below. "Daddy, I'm cold down here. I never wanted to go down there. Every instinct screamed at me not to. But the moment Lily's voice echoed up from the stairs hidden behind her closet, I was already gripping the railing. Cold metal. Slick. Breathing. Yes, it felt like the railing. Inhaled as I touched it. I swallowed hard, stepped onto the first stair, and descended into blackness. The walls narrowed. The light from Lily's bedroom faded behind me. I turned on my phone's flashlight. No signal. The steps went down and down. Stone stairs, slick with condensation, walls pressed tight around me. It smelled like mold, wet metal, and something coppery. Something like blood. I kept hearing Lily's voice ahead, but it echoed wrong, like it was being mimicked. After what felt like 100 steps, I reached a door. A door with my name carved into it. Not Dad, not Father, Ethan Ward. Not carved with tools, carved with nails. I reached for the handle. It turned on its own. The door creaked open. No, it screamed open, and I stepped inside. The room was a perfect replica of the Boston bathroom, the one where Rachel died. Bathtub, window, tiled walls, everything. Even the framed photo of us on the sink, the one I'd thrown away after the funeral. I stumbled backward, my head spinning. No, this isn't real, but it was. The bathwater was warm, steaming, full, and someone was beneath the water, their outline distorted, a body. I stepped forward, and that's when I saw the face rising up, Rachel, hair splayed like seaweed, skin pale, lips blue, but her eyes were open, alive, and filled with rage. She didn't scream. She just whispered, "You never left, Ethan." I bolted, ran back up the stairs, or tried to. Because when I turned, there were no stairs anymore, just walls. Sealed shut. Breathing, I backed, away trembling, and bumped into something. A mirror. Standing tall in the middle of the room. I hadn't seen it before. It showed me, but not just me. Versions of me. One standing still. One crying. One smashing the mirror with his fists. One strangling Vanessa. One drowning Rachel. One whispering to Lily, "Don't tell Mommy what you saw." I screamed and punched the mirror. It cracked, but instead of shattering, the cracks turned to veins. Blood seeped from them. The glass bled. Suddenly the floor dropped beneath me. I fell, slamming into darkness. When I opened my eyes, I was back, in the house. But not my version of it. This one was darker. Rotten. The walls were covered in mold. The air was thick with sulfur. I heard crying. Lily's. I ran room to room. Each one showed something different. One had Vanessa sobbing in front of a mirror, cutting her own hair. One showed me asleep, as a tall man watched from the corner. Another had dozens of clocks, all ticking out of sync, all reading 3:07. Finally, I found Lily. She was standing in front of a door. "Daddy," she whispered, not turning. He said, "I'm not real." "Who said that?" She looked up at me with hollow eyes. "You did." The door opened, and behind it wasn't a room. It was a long hallway, lined with doors. Each door had a name. Names I recognized. My name. Vanessa's name. Rachel's. Lily's. And others I didn't know. Dozens of them. I tried opening one. It was locked. I turned to Lily. She was gone. Just her rabbit was left behind, hanging by its ear from a nail in the wall. I collapsed on the floor, sobbing, whispering Rachel's name. Then, I noticed something beside me, the notebook. It was here too. I picked it up. It was filled now. Every page, all in my handwriting. Every sin, every doubt, every thought I'd buried. Even the ones I hadn't dared say aloud. I should have saved her. Hated Vanessa the day I met her. I think Lily isn't mine. I wanted to die, and take them with me. Then, one final line at the end, "You should have left, but you brought them here instead." I screamed, tore the book apart, hurled the pages into the air. They fluttered, then stopped mid-air, like time paused, and then they started, rearranging themselves, page by page, floating back into the notebook. The cover sealed, and the floor opened again. I landed in the bed, in our room. It was morning. Vanessa was brushing her teeth. Lily was humming her song again. The clocks all said 7:45 a.m. Everything was normal, except on my pillow was the notebook, with a new message written in red ink. Tonight, you forget again. But the house remembers. The morning after I woke up was too normal. Vanessa cooked eggs. Lily sat at the kitchen island, her legs swinging, humming, the same old strange tune she always did. The windows showed a pleasant sky. The birds chirped. The trees barely moved. And yet, nothing felt real. It was like we were actors in a play someone else had written. I touched my face. It felt unfamiliar. Like I was inside a costume that didn't fit right anymore. The notebook sat beside my coffee cup, completely blank again, except for one phrase on the very first page. Watch the mirrors today. The first mirror I looked at was in the upstairs hallway. It didn't show my reflection. It showed me from behind, standing in the hallway, alone. No phone, no camera tricks, just a reflection that wasn't matching reality. I turned around, nothing behind me. But the mirror showed someone, a tall silhouette just beyond the corner, watching me. I spun, around again, still nothing. But when I turned back to the mirror, the silhouette was closer. I took the mirror down, smashed it. Vanessa came running up. What the hell, Ethan? There was someone behind me. She looked at me like I was broken. We're leaving, I told her. Today, now. But her face, it changed, just for a second. Cold, flat, blank, and then back to normal. We still have 2 more days, Ethan, she said sweetly, brushing glass from my hands. Why ruin it? That night I found a new room, again, one that hadn't been there before. Behind the guest bedroom, closet, which had previously been just a shallow space for coats. Now, it was a study. Bookshelves, a leather armchair, a fireplace, a desk with photographs. I picked one up. It was me, standing in front of this very house, holding Lily, Vanessa smiling beside me. Except, I didn't remember this moment. This photo never happened. The second photo? Me, alone, standing where the house should be. But the house wasn't there. Just fog. The third photo? The house, with someone staring out from every single window. Too many people. I stepped back. The chair in the room rocked forward, as if someone had just gotten up, and the air behind me grew cold. I turned, and for the first time, I saw him. Not in the mirror. Not in a dream, but right there, standing. The man in the reflection, he wore no face, just skin stretched smooth where his features should be, a slit of a mouth, no eyes, yet I knew he could see me. He raised a hand, 5 fingers, long, bone white. His voice didn't come from his mouth, it came from every wall. You've wandered too far. I screamed, ran through the hallway, down the stairs. But every turn led me back to the same room, the study, and he was still there. Closer. Then I blinked, and he was inside the mirror now, staring, not moving, just watching. I tried to smash this mirror too, but it wouldn't break. It absorbed the blow, rippling like water. I backed away slowly. The man's reflection didn't follow. He stayed where he was. But somehow, I knew he wasn't trapped. He was waiting. That night, I checked every mirror in the house, the hallway, the bathrooms, even the toaster's reflection, and every single one of them showed him, in the corner, sometimes closer, sometimes far, but always watching, always silent. Lily called out at 3:07 a.m. again. This time I found her in the living room. She stood by the large mirror near the fireplace. Her hand was pressed to the glass. "Daddy," she said softly. "He says you forgot everything again." "Who said that?" She didn't answer, just looked back at me and asked, "Why do you keep bringing us back here?" I picked her up and turned away from the mirror. But for a split second, I saw her reflection smiling, even though her face wasn't. And behind us, he was waving. The next morning, Vanessa was gone. Her side of the bed untouched, her shoes still by the door, but her phone, her coat, and her scarf were missing. I searched every room, every hallway, every mirror, no trace. Until I returned to the guest bedroom. On the wall above the headboard was a message, written backward, like it had been meant for a mirror. I held up my phone and flipped the image. It read, "She saw too much. You'll forget her soon." Just like before. I dropped the phone, and for a moment, I felt something shift inside me. Like a hole, where Vanessa's name used to be. Her name was gone. Vanessa. I said it aloud just to make sure I remembered how it sounded. Vanessa. The word felt foreign, like something from a half-forgotten dream. I stared at her empty pillow. The indentation was still there. Proof that someone had slept there. Right? But I couldn't remember the last conversation we'd had. The last time I kissed her, or how her voice sounded. Just flickers, a scarf, red lipstick, a smile in the morning, and even those were fading fast. Lily came in, rubbing her eyes. "Daddy, where's the lady?" I turned to her. "What lady, sweetheart?" She tilted her head. "The one with the hair. The one who said we'd be safe now." My skin prickled. "Did she say her name?" Lily shook her head. She didn't remember either. I spent that entire morning looking for traces of Vanessa, anything. I opened every drawer, checked the suitcase, looked through my phone's gallery, nothing. No photos, no texts, no history. Her clothes? Gone, like she'd never been here at all. But I knew she was. Didn't I? The only thing I found was her wedding ring, sitting on the windowsill in the kitchen. Next to it, scrawled in condensation across the glass, "Don't let him in again." I sat on the floor for hours, trying to piece it together. Had I imagined her? Had I killed her? Or was the house taking memories from me, replacing them with something else? The notebook didn't help. Now, every page was filled with two alternating lines, over and over, thousands of times. "You should have left, but you never do." The writing changed fonts, sizes, angles, some in my hand, others in hands I didn't recognize. One line stood out near the middle. "You brought another woman once before." The study was still there. This time when I entered, the photographs on the desk had changed. No longer Vanessa. Now they were all of Rachel. In places we'd never been. On the beach, in front of this house, holding Lily, even though she'd died years before Lily was born. No, wait, did she? My head throbbed. My breath turned shaky. I opened a drawer in the desk and found a photograph that made me fall to my knees. It was me, covered in blood, standing at the edge of a bathtub. Rachel's body floating inside, my hands on her shoulders, look of calm on my face. Not grief, relief. I dropped the photo and heard something behind me. A whisper, coming from the wall. I leaned in. Dozens of voices whispered together, layered atop each other. Some I recognized. Vanessa, Rachel, even Lily. They all said the same thing. He's in the walls again. That night, I tried to keep every light on, every mirror covered. I sat beside Lily as she slept, holding her rabbit in one hand and a flashlight in the other. At exactly 3:07 a.m., the walls groaned. The closet door in her room opened slowly, creaking, like bones splitting, and he stepped out, the man from the reflection. But now, he was real. Tall, skin like stretched canvas, no face, just indentations where eyes might have once been. He walked silently to the foot of Lily's bed. I stood up, blocking him. "Get away from her," I said, barely able to speak. His head tilted, and then he whispered. Not from his mouth, but from inside my skull, "She doesn't belong to you." I lunged, tried to punch him, but my hand passed through him and struck something cold and solid behind. A mirror. He wasn't in the room. He was in the mirror again, and I had just punched. My own reflection, blood smeared across the glass. And the reflection? It didn't copy me anymore. It just stared back, smiling. I grabbed Lily and ran down the hall, into the living room. The walls stretched, the rooms shifted. The hallway looped back into itself, a maze now, reshaping every time I turned. I found a door, kicked it open. It led to a bathroom, not ours, the one from the photo, the one where Rachel died. Lily clutched my neck tighter. "Daddy," she whispered, "I don't like this house." I nodded, out of breath. Me either. There was a knock at the front door. Sudden, sharp, impossible, because there was no front door anymore. But still, knock, knock, knock. I followed the sound, carrying Lily. We reached a blank wall where the front door used to be. Another knock. Then, a voice. "Let me in, Ethan." My voice. I forgot something. Knock, knock, knock. It wouldn't stop. The wall where the front door used to be trembled with each hit. But it wasn't wood. Not anymore. It pulsed. Like muscle under skin. Lily hid her face against my neck, her breath quick and warm. I felt her tiny hands grip my collar tighter with every knock. And then the voice spoke again. "Ethan." My voice. "You left something. Outside. Let me in." I took a step back. "No," I said, though my voice cracked. "You're not me." A pause. Then the voice whispered again, softer this time, like a plea from a lost child. "You brought me here. I'm your shadow. I'm your memory." A faint outline appeared on the wall, forming the shape of a man. The same height, the same build, hands at his sides, head tilted in that same familiar way. He was me, but something was wrong with his silhouette. It twitched, glitched, and it smiled without a face. Suddenly, every light in the house went out. Not a flicker, a snap, like the house had blinked. Darkness swallowed everything. I fumbled for my phone, turned on the flashlight. The wall was empty again. But behind me, I heard footsteps. Light, barefoot. And then, my own voice, right behind my ear. "She'll never be yours." I spun, shining the light. Nothing. Lily was still in my arms, clutching me like a lifeline. She whispered, "Daddy, I want to go where Mommy went." I froze. "Where did she go?" Lily pointed to the hallway mirror. She went inside there. The hallway stretched longer than I remembered. Mirrors lined the walls now, every few feet, one on either side, all clean, all glowing faintly in the dark. As I walked, The mirrors reflected more than just me and Lily. They reflected choices. Each one showed a version of myself. One with a gun in his hand, mouth shaking. One arguing with Vanessa in the car. One burying something in the snow. One holding a newborn child and walking away from it. Each step forward twisted my stomach. Lily tugged on my shirt. "Don't look in that one." I glanced. The mirror showed me, in this exact moment, but in his arms, the man who wore my face, holding Lily, smiling. Then, he looked at me. Not my reflection. Me. And winked. I dropped the mirror. It didn't break. None of them did. They were part of the house now. Bones in its body. We reached the end of the hallway. A door stood there. Old. Wooden. Unlike the rest of the house, it had no knob. Only a slit at eye level. I peered through and saw myself. Standing in a room lit with yellow light. Cozy. Warm. The way our old apartment used to be. Rachel was alive. Vanessa too. Even Lily, just a baby again, was there. Smiling. Laughing. They were all happy. I reached out, but Lily grabbed my wrist. "That's not you," she whispered. And when I looked again, she was right. The me in the room turned to face the door, and his smile was too wide. His eyes completely black. He lifted a hand and held it against the other side of the door, waiting for mine. I stepped back. A deep, low rumble echoed through the hallway. The mirrors shook, and then all of them changed. Now each one showed the man, my face, but distorted. Each reflection more broken than the last, eyes melting, skin twisting, smiles stretching past the jaw, and all of them watching me. Some laughing, some crying, some just silently mouthing something I couldn't hear. Except one. He whispered clearly, "You don't get to leave, Ethan. Not this time." I turned, clutching Lily tighter, and ran. The hallway stretched, twisted, pulled back on itself. Doors vanished, rooms folded in, until we were standing in the living room again, breathless, broken, and the notebook was back, sitting on the coffee table. This time, the cover was open. Pages flipped by themselves, then stopped. A new message appeared. "You keep trying to run. But this house isn't a place. It's a punishment, built from every lie you ever told yourself." I sat down. Lily curled up in my lap, humming that strange song again. Her eyes were drooping, her voice weak. "Daddy, when you leave, can I stay?" My heart clenched. "What do you mean?" She looked at me, drowsy. "He said I belong here, because you made me." "What?" She pointed to the fireplace. There, carved above it, in jagged script, Lily Ward, created, not born. I blinked. "No, that's not true." She nodded slowly. "It's okay, Daddy. He told me why you made me, so you wouldn't be alone." My body went numb, and then she said something I'll never forget. Whispered. Soft. Gentle. "I forgive you." Then she closed her eyes and vanished. Like smoke. Gone. No weight in my arms, no sound, just me and the house and my reflection. Still smiling in every mirror. The silence after Lily disappeared was unbearable. No hum of the fridge, no ticking clock, no whisper of wind outside. Just stillness. So absolute. It felt alive. I stood in the middle of the room, staring at the empty space where she had been in my arms just seconds ago. Her warmth was already fading from my skin. My hands trembled as I whispered her name. Lily. No answer. Whispered it again. Still nothing. Only the soft creak of the house settling, or watching. I turned to the fireplace. The carving above it still remained. Lily Ward. Created, not born. I stared at it until the words blurred into scratches. Then I fell to my knees. Not because I believed it, but because part of me always had. The timing. The way she looked nothing like me or Vanessa. The subtle way her laughter never matched. Mine never felt real. What if she wasn't real? What if she was part of the house? An offering. A projection. A reflection of what I wanted most. A second chance. A family. The room dimmed without warning. Shadows bled across the walls, crawling, slowly like thick black ink. The light bulbs flickered, and the air turned cold. Then I heard it. Not footsteps, not voices, memories. Like audio playing from thin air, loud and clear. My own voice, speaking in loop. We're happy here. This was the right choice. I'm not dangerous. Anymore. I didn't mean to hurt her. She slipped. I swear, she slipped. I love my family. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. The walls around me shifted, literally. The entire room rearranged, furniture sliding, shelves twisting into new positions. The floorboards groaned, then reshaped into a spiral. And then a doorway opened to my right. Doorway I had never seen before. Lit by a single dangling bulb, swaying back and forth. The bulb pulsed like a heartbeat. I stepped through. This room was different. Nothing modern. No sleek angles or digital clocks. Just old wallpaper peeling at the corners, dust, a single iron bed in the center, rusted frame, stained mattress, and beside the bed, a desk. On it sat dozens of audio cassettes labeled by hand. Session 1, Ethan Ward. Session 2, Ethan Ward. Session 38, E. Ward, Confession Partial. I picked one up, put it into the player, pressed play. My voice filled the room, older, raspier. She wasn't supposed to die. I just wanted her to listen. But she always screamed when I got close, like she knew, like she remembered something I didn't. The house is mercy. The house shows you the truth. I see now. I never left. I never left. I ripped the tape out, shaking. I tried another. This one had Vanessa's voice. He's slipping. Every day. A little more. I don't think he knows what's real anymore. I'm scared for Lily. I'm scared of Ethan. I don't even think he knows where she came from. The recording crackled, then ended. I fell to the floor. Hands over my ears. The room listened to me cry. It fed on it. The mirror across from the bed fogged over with breath. A message appeared in slow, deliberate strokes. She begged you to leave, and you chose the house. I stumbled out of the room. Only it wasn't the hallway I returned to. It was our old apartment. Exactly as it had been before Rachel's death. Same furniture. Same kitchen light that flickered when the fridge door opened. Same calendar still hanging crooked on the wall, frozen in time on the date she died. I called out. "Rachel?" No answer, but her perfume was there. Soft, familiar, like lavender and iron. I turned toward the bathroom. The door was slightly ajar. Steam drifted from the crack, a shape inside. A woman. In the tub. I opened it slowly, and there she was. Rachel. Not drowned. Not cold. Alive. She sat in the water looking up at me. No anger, just tiredness, and she whispered, "You don't even remember how it really happened." "I do," I choked. "You think you do," she said. "But the house, it doesn't show the past. It shows the version you can't admit." She reached out her hand. "Come see." I knelt beside her, shaking, touched her fingers, and suddenly, I was there. The real moment. The day she died. We were arguing, screaming. The tape player was still on, Rachel crying, me yelling. The tub was running, overflowing. I grabbed her arm. She tried to leave. I shoved her back, too hard. She hit her head, slipped under, and I hesitated. I froze. Stood there, watching the bubbles rise. Not helping, not calling, just letting the silence swallow her. And when it was over, I sat down beside the tub and whispered, "She shouldn't have pushed me." The vision ended. I was back in the apartment, alone. Rachel gone, just the water still warm, and my reflection in the bathroom mirror. Not crying, not angry, smiling. There's no pain like remembering the truth. Not grief, not guilt. Just the searing clarity that what you denied for years was always true. Always waiting behind your eyelids, just beneath your breath. I killed Rachel. Not with poison, not with a knife. With hesitation, with silence. With the decision to let the water fill her lungs while I stared, and the house. It knew. The house didn't punish me. It revealed me. I walked down the hallway with slow steps. The wallpaper peeled, back in sheets. The floorboards groaned like they were in pain. My fingers trailed against the wall, brushing something soft. Moss? No, hair. Human hair. Sewn into the seams of the house. I didn't flinch anymore. Whatever this place had become, I was part of it now. I passed the mirrors. None of them reflected me anymore. Just him. The man who wore my face. But he didn't speak now. He just stared, waiting, smiling. At the end of the hall, a new door had formed. Blood red. Old wood. Iron handle. Above it, carved in jagged letters, Confession-y opened it. Inside was a room like a chapel, but perverted. No crosses, no stained glass, just rows of chairs facing a single wooden pulpit, and on that pulpit, a mirror. Large, cracked down the center, and in front of it, a chair. Facing me, occupied. By me. I stood frozen at the threshold. The figure in the chair raised his head slowly. My face, but older, worn, hollowed, eyes like scorched earth. He smiled and motioned to the seat across from him. Time to tell the truth, he said. I stepped forward, dazed, sat down. The other me leaned forward, elbows on knees. You've run long enough. I never wanted this, I whispered. You built it, he said. Every lie, every excuse. The way you rewrote the story to make yourself the victim. It all became this. I didn't kill her. He tilted his head. Say that again. My throat tightened. I didn't... He slammed the pulpit. You watched her die, Ethan. That's worse. You waited. You let the silence drown her because you didn't want to be the one who broke it. The room shuddered. Chairs creaked. Dust fell from the ceiling like ash. The mirror behind him pulsed like a heartbeat. Then it spoke. In all the voices I'd ever known, Vanessa, Rachel, Lily, even my own father, confess. Say it. Let it out. I looked up at the cracked glass. I let her die, I said, louder. I let her drown because I was tired of being the weak one. Again. I hated that she saw me, the real me. I wanted her to be quiet. I wanted her to stop. And Lily? My voice cracked. I don't know if she was real. I think I made her up in my head to feel like I had something pure. Something that didn't look at me like I was a mistake. Did you ever love them? Tears welled up, yes, a pause then, but not enough to save them. The mirror shattered, not with glass, with light. Blinding white light poured from the cracks, flooding the room, peeling back the shadows. The chairs dissolved into ash. The altar caught fire without flame. The air screamed. And then, silence. Everything was gone. The room, the chairs, the air itself. Just blackness. And me, alone. Then a door appeared in the dark. No handle, no color. Just a white outline glowing faintly. I walked toward it. When I touched it, it opened on its own. And behind it was a perfect replica of my home. Not the house we rented. Not the one in Boston. But the first home. The small apartment with the broken heater. The couch with torn cushions. The framed picture of Rachel from when we first met. And in the center of the room, Lily, sitting on the floor. Drawing. Like nothing had ever happened. She looked up and smiled. You did it. I knelt beside her, afraid to touch her, afraid she'd vanish again. But she didn't. She handed me the drawing. It showed the two of us, me and her. Outside, in the sun, with Rachel watching from a window. Her face peaceful, whole. I don't know if you're real, I whispered. I don't either, Lily said. But you remember me now. I nodded slowly. Tears rolled down my face. Can I stay here with you? I asked. Lily looked down at the drawing, then up at me. No, you don't belong here anymore. The walls faded. The floor crumbled. The room vanished into light. And I fell. I woke up choking, flat on my back, surrounded by damp soil. No ceiling above me, just a sky the color of bruised flesh, heavy with unmoving clouds. The ground pulsed, beneath my hands like a heartbeat. I sat up slowly. I wasn't in the house anymore. Not exactly. It was the outside of the house, but twisted, as if the land around it had remembered too much. Trees grew backward. The air smelled of copper and rain. And the house itself, it had changed. The sleek modern lines were warped. Windows blinked like eyes. The walls breathed. Doors melted into place only to vanish again. The house was alive, and it wasn't hiding anymore. I stood. The notebook was at my feet, still open, still waiting. A single line now filled the page, over and over. You confessed. Now pay. And on the final line, go back inside. I should have run. But where would I go? There was no car, no road, no sound of life beyond the tree line, only wind that whispered my name in unfamiliar voices. So I turned toward the house and walked back in. It welcomed me. With silence, the inside was stripped, no furniture, no photos, just bones of architecture, bare floorboards, hollow echoes, and the mirrors, everywhere now, hundreds. Lining the walls, the ceiling, even the floor, each one reflecting a different version of me. Me standing. Me bleeding. Me broken. Me smiling. Me dead. And one mirror showed Lily, standing behind me. I turned. She wasn't there. I turned back to the mirror. She was closer, mouth open, screaming. I couldn't hear it, just the sight of it, distorted. A silent scream that made my chest ache. Then the mirrors began to crack, one by one, each shattering into dust that floated into the air like ash. The house groaned, like something ancient and betrayed. And then he returned. The man who wore my face. But this time, he was me. Identical. Down to the scar on my right temple, the wrinkle in my shirt collar, the tremor in my left hand. "I'm you," he said, "the part that never left. The part that stayed and built the house." "No," I whispered. "I didn't build this." He stepped forward. "Every lie you told added a room. Every memory you twisted filled the halls. Every time you said, 'I'm fine,' instead of asking for help, the walls got stronger." I confessed, I said. I remembered. I accepted it. He nodded slowly. "And now you must choose." He pointed behind me. A door had appeared, simple, wooden, slightly open. Warm golden light poured from within, and from that room, I heard Lily's laugh. Then he pointed to another door, this one made of metal, bolted, black, and from inside, screaming. Dozens of voices, begging, crying, whispering my name. "This is the truth," he said. "This is where you stay." And the other? A lie, a mercy, a loop you can live in forever. You'll forget. You'll wake up happy. Lily will be there. Vanessa too, no guilt, no pain. I swallowed hard. And the price? He smiled. Your soul. What's left of it? The real you dies in that room. The fake you lives happily ever after. I walked to the lighted door, put my hand on it, felt warmth, heard laughter. I wanted to walk in. God, I wanted to. But something inside me hesitated. I turned to the black door. The voices grew louder. Not torment. Truth. The raw, searing kind that cuts but cleanses. I looked at my double. "You already know what I'm choosing." He nodded. "Yes, but I had to offer. It's part of the house's rules." I took a deep breath and opened the black door. Inside was a staircase, descending. Again, always down. I walked and walked. For what felt like days, until I reached a room lit by a single candle. In the center, a chair, on it. A TV, old static, a tape, was already in, labeled Ethan Ward. Final Cutie pressed play and watched. My life, everything. The fights, the lies. The moments I chose silence over action. Rachel's face the day I stopped saying, "I love you." Vanessa's face when I gaslit her about the affair. Lily's face when she realized I'd never really believed in her. Scene after scene. Pain after pain. Until the tape ended and the TV went black. And then, so did the candle. Darkness swallowed me whole. But this time I didn't fight it. I let it in, all of it. The pain, the regret, the house. I closed my eyes and whispered, "I'm sorry." Silence again, but this time it wasn't empty. It was complete, like the sound of a breath held forever, a stillness beyond time. I stood alone in the dark, or maybe I didn't stand at all. Maybe I had no body anymore. Maybe I was just part of it now. The house, the thing that waits. Then softly, a voice came, familiar and small. "Lily." "Daddy." A flicker of light bloomed ahead. Dim, warm, candle-like. I moved toward it, or it moved toward me, until I was standing in a room I knew well. Our old living room, but frozen in amber. Time didn't pass here. Rachel's photo on the wall, Vanessa's scarf on the chair, Lily's crayon drawing still taped to the fridge. The version of our life I remembered, the version I wanted. And there, curled up on the couch, Lily, eyes closed, lips parted in sleep. I stepped closer. Her breathing shallow, steady. but something in me hesitated. This wasn't real. None of it. This was the house's final test. One last lie. One final temptation. She stirred, as if sensing my thoughts, and without opening her eyes, she whispered, "If you stay, you forget again. And if you forget, it all starts over." I knelt beside her. "I don't want to forget you." She opened her eyes. So calm, so old. "I'm not the one you need to remember." The room dissolved, replaced by stone. Cold, black, wet. The true heart of the house. A chamber made of memory. Its walls were covered in names. Thousands. Each carved into the stone with desperate hands. Names of people who stayed. People who chose the lie. People who forgot. Over and over again. And then I saw mine. Ethan Ward, already there, already fading, already waiting to be rewritten. The notebook reappeared in my hands, this time blank, but not for long. Words began to etch themselves onto the pages in blood-red ink. The man was a liar. The man was a coward. The man was guilty. But the man remembered. And then, one final line, in my own hand. And so, the house let him go. I opened my eyes. Real ones. For the first time in what felt like years, I was lying on wet ground, outside. Not near the house, but in the ruins of something. Blackened beams, collapsed walls, a foundation burned to ash. No mirrors, no walls, no doors, just emptiness and the smell of earth. The house was gone. I stood up, weak, alive. My breath clouded in the morning air. In my pocket, the notebook remained. One page filled, the rest empty. A second chance. I walked for hours until I reached a road, a gas station, a phone, a man behind the counter who asked, "Are you all right?" I didn't answer, because for once, I didn't know. Weeks passed, then months. The nightmares came and went. Sometimes I heard Lily's laugh echo in my sleep. Sometimes I woke up to see a mirror smile before I did. But every morning I opened the notebook and wrote one line. Today I remember. Because I knew. The house, it waits. It always waits. For the next man who lies to himself. For the next woman who forgets the truth. For the next lost soul who chooses comfort over clarity. It waits. Just beneath the skin of the world. Just beyond the hallway you don't recognize. Just behind the mirror.